Good morning. Happy Daily Drop-In, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday, here for the Daily Drop-In at 7 a.m. Eastern. I am joined today with Claude Larson. I am so excited to dive into her background, all the work she's done in education, her incredible passion for art, and you know that this is going to all tie into our weekly theme this week, which is about creating environments for not only ourselves to be successful as educators, but also the students which we serve, working in an environment where they can be successful. As you guys know, with our daily drop-in, we'll have a good news segment. We got our brainstorm bank we'll dive into, and we have a lot in store. So we'll be right back. Please go fill up your coffee. You know that we're going to start with the morning cheers of whatever beverage you so choose this early in the morning. I know a lot of you prefer water, a lot of different drinks out there, but we'll get started here in just a minute when we come right back. Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Daily Drop-In. We love when you are sharing your good morning energy in the comments. You know that we love to go live every single morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Take your questions, interact with you, kind of get the morning started. I am here with Claude Larson. It is so incredible to have you. How are you feeling right now?
I feel awesome. And I have to tell you, that's coming from somebody who, I left education a little while ago. So waking up to an alarm, not that I'm not normally up at 6 a.m., but I was like, let's make double sure. Yeah, I was kind of like, oh yeah, watch this, the sun coming up. And it's just been great. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here as well. I know right as you popped on, even before we went live, we were chatting a bit, and I am so eager to get into your background, all the things you've accomplished. Like, holy cow. We've had incredible guests on Daily Drop-In. We have, of course, many, many guests in the future as we go live every single day, but I just knew specifically, I'm like, today has a good vibe already, and it's only 6 a.m. Central, so I'm a huge fan. As we get started, Claude, we always start with a morning cheers. We really like to welcome our community in, say good morning. I know you are drinking. What is your concoction you have this morning?
It's kind of like my own thing. It's water based,
Water.
and then just add some vitamins, potassium, like things like that, just to, keep me energized, keep me going. I tend to be a high energy person by nature.
Yes, I think that's wonderful. Well, cheers to everybody. Good morning. We're thrilled to have you. We love kind of getting started with Daily Drop-In with kind of like easygoing conversation. We'll get into some good news stories. So I'm really excited you're here to be a part of that. Before we get started too far into all the good stuff that I know you and I will be able to discuss today, will you tell our audience a little bit, like, how did you get connected with the Teach Better team? And also, what do you do in education? I know you taught for 25 years, holy cow, and you're doing wonderful things now that even though they're not directly in education, there's a huge connection to our conversation today I'd love to get into. So would you mind just telling us a little about yourself?
Sure. So I was a career educator, as many of you folks out there listening are. I started in 1986. So maybe some of you were still in Pampers or maybe not born yet. So I saw a lot over decades of teaching. And I actually left in 2019, took a few years off to raise children and do all those things. I really ran the gamut because back in the late 80s, it was hard to get a teaching job. It was a very popular profession. And I taught everything from second grade up through high school, 12th grade. I have certificates K to 8, science, and which is what I ultimately loved teaching and ended up doing the bulk of my career in. Middle school. I love middle school, which you have to love middle school to be in middle school because it can be the range of the strange, and there's a lot of immaturity, and then there's a lot of too much maturity, and there's it's a whole gamut. So I really did the bulk of my out of my 25 years, 22 of them were 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And they were all in the realm of science because that is my love.
This is how I knew we were going to get along. You're a middle school teacher. Easy. I could have guessed that from a mile away. I love it. Especially science. I taught science a few years, and oh my gosh, that takes a special kind of person. Science and middle school. Holy cow.
Yeah. Well, and how many times can you say safety first and let's all put on our goggles?
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like that's like this morning. Okay, this is my first live stream. I've done other podcasts, but I'm like, okay, safety first. Do I need my goggles? Because I don't know what I'm getting into. But yeah, so that's what I did, and I actually wrote a book in this education space to help teachers, sort of as my legacy, because I knew I was leaving, and um, I left on such a high note for myself. Like I've watched teachers who like sort of dwindle at the end of their career and they know they're ready to go, but then they don't go. And I didn't want to do that. Like I actually didn't even tell my students. And I mean, some of my colleagues knew, but unless they read the board minutes, many of my colleagues did not know. So, um, I just wanted to like be the same going out as I was coming in, the same enthusiasm and all of that. And writing a book at the end actually was so transformative, both for me, for the experience of being an author and writing and curating your own writing, which as a science teacher, I wasn't an English teacher. I had some subject verb agreement issues. All of you English teachers out there probably would have cringed at the first draft. But it really came to help me, and it helped transform my classroom, and it helped my students. And it really made the last couple of years, like I looked forward to going to work on a Monday morning, every Monday morning, which I know a lot of teachers don't feel that way on Sunday night, but I did. I was like, yay. So yeah, so that's how I got here. And I have continued to, through the book, I actually continue to educate teenagers who are in the youth corps space, which is kids who have decided to drop out of high school. Then they realize maybe that wasn't the best decision they've ever made. And rather than live with the consequences of one bad decision, they go to youth corps. It's a 16-week program, and they prepare them to get their GED, which many of them pass on the first try because they've had the appropriate education for it. And so I'm helping them in the life skills section. So we talk about mindset, attitude, what choices they've made up to this point, and like going forward, right? Like yesterday I was talking to them about like yesterday ended at midnight. So the best days of your life are ahead of you. You have to believe the best days of your life are ahead of you, because all the other ones, they're done already. And if you think to yourself, well, they're all behind me, then what's the point of getting up each day, right? The best days have to be ahead.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like you've done a lot of different pieces that I want to dive into because, I mean, personally, I could talk about middle school science forever. I love that you chose to write a book at the end of your career. I think that adds a completely different element. We have people all the time that say, "Oh, I wrote a book," and you're like, "Oh, that's fabulous." But I don't know that I've ever met somebody who chose to put it all down on paper before they left, truly right before they left. But then with that, to then now have you working with students that are older probably than you're typically used to working with, right? They're at that higher college or higher high school level, and supporting them and getting their this is a really incredible kind of like story you've taken us on. Will you tell us the title of the book?
The title of the book is The Power of Choice: A Teen's Guide to Finding Personal Success. And honestly, like I didn't say to myself, "Oh, I'm going to write a book." I just had, in my 24th year, I just had a particular group of students that, for many reasons, was difficult to have in the classroom. They had a very short attention span. They had a pretty poor work ethic. And I know teenagers are self-absorbed. Like, hello, that's since the beginning of time, right? But these guys literally had no self-awareness, and I was struggling. And I thought to myself, like, okay, what I'm doing isn't working with this group. And like, I must find a way to get through, because it's hard, teachers are getting up at the wee hours of the morning and going to work because we affect change. Like it doesn't matter what you teach. The purpose is because you want to make people have a better life. And so when you get up every day and you go to work and you feel like you're not affecting any change, it's really hard to get up every day and go to work. And that's how I was feeling. So I I sat down and I thought to myself, I was teaching 8th grade at the time. When I was in 8th grade, what did I learn in science? And short of remembering the name of my teacher, who was a really nice man and a very good teacher, I couldn't attribute any facts of science to him. And science has changed. They say it right every 2 years, scientific knowledge doubles or whatever it is. And I thought to myself, okay, so in the end, I'm teaching physics and chemistry. Maybe a handful of kids in my career are going to turn out to be physicists. And that's great. But the bulk of them might not. And that's okay too, because the world doesn't need a million and everybody to be a physicist. We need all the people. And I thought, when they leave here, what do I really want them to know? And like, what don't they know that they should going forward? Because they're going to go to high school. If they're really immature, there's all kinds of shenanigans and trouble they can get into up there. And how do I best prepare them? Which is when I started I did mini lessons. It was every Monday. I did it for all 5 of my classes. And it was just maybe 15 minutes of the class. And I would have a conversation with them. And at the end, I would, tell stories. I would, draw on my own life experiences, talk to them about things like excellence and attitude. And, because they think if everybody gets a trophy, then they're excellent. And I was kind of like, yeah, that's conformity. Like, that's average. If everybody got one, that's average. And it became very eye-opening for them, because nobody had had these conversations with them. And I was asking them personal questions that they were writing the answers to, that I was not going to see, that they did not have to share. And for the first time, some of them grew their self-awareness level where they really, I said, this is an experiment. This is an experiment. 2 things here. I can fall on my face because they're 13 and 14-year-olds, or maybe I can make some change, right? So I took the risk, and admittedly was a little nervous because this was uncharted waters here. And the first day, teachers came to me at the end of the day and they said to me, I don't know what you did in class today, but they were talking about it in my class. I couldn't get them to stop. The cafeteria aide said they were talking about this in the cafeteria. I don't know what you did, but they were talking about it. And then when the phys ed teacher stopped in and said, that's all they talked about in the locker room, I was like, oh, because they didn't talk about it to me yet, right? They did down the road, but I thought, oh, I guess that had some impact. Maybe I'm going to affect change with this group after all, because I really thought I was never going to. And it just went from there. So we did it every Monday. We taught everything from gratitude, from putting down grudges, setting your boundaries, just like all those self-awareness topics that kids need to learn about. Because if you go into high school and you haven't established that you should set boundaries, you're going to be the follower, and you're going to be in trouble pretty soon. And so that took me so I finished out that 24th year with those students doing that. They loved it. One time we had like a snow day on a Monday. I go in on Tuesday and I thought, oh, I don't know, because it's Tuesday. So one of the kids says, well, are we doing Mindful Monday? I said, well, it's Tuesday. And they were like, well, can't we just call it something else? So I said, wow, they like this. That's something. 13 and 14-year-olds are requesting this. That's impressive. And the following year I said, well, why am I going to wait till, down the road to get this started? And I just did it every week.
Mm.
And I had an aha moment in that year, like, oh, this has helped me so much. This is helping them so much. Like, this classroom environment's amazing. I look forward to going to work on Monday. I got to help other people. Like, this needs to be of service to others. And so I took my sticky notes with my jotted down like bullet points of ideas and said, this needs to be a book. And when I mean, yeah, there was just a bunch of like almost note card sized things that has now turned into 100 and something page book. So there was some work in that. But I want to help. I know it's tough, and after the last really couple of years in the classroom, it's really tough. And I want to help rebuild their life skills and their habits, and I want to help teachers affect change, because I know staring into a screen with a bunch of little gray boxes with names on it was not rewarding for educators. It was exhausting, I think. I mean, my former colleagues were, they were just spent. I'd call them up and be like, "Hey, let's go do something." They were like, "I just can't even get off the couch. I'm so tired."
Mhm.
Broke my heart.
Something I really value about your kind of explanation there is that truly you were doing something that you knew was best for students. You saw a wonderful, wonderful response from taking intentional time to not only be a content teacher, teaching your content specially, but truly dive into that whole child support. And then you said, how can I share this with others? And that truly is such a mindset that we welcome here in the Teach Better family is when something goes well, whether it be something you're doing every week, in a minuscule moment in your day, or something so much larger, the opportunity to share that with others in hopes that it can positively impact other students, other educators, future educators is just something so fitting. So I so appreciate the work you've done. And I'd actually love to get into a little bit more of that work here in a little bit, because something I really can just feel in your energy is you are committed to creating safe spaces, wonderful environments where students can be open and vulnerable and share and express themselves. And I can only imagine the ideas you must have. Our theme this week is all about creating wonderful spaces for learning, and not only learning our content, but learning all of the skills. I love that your focus on essential skills is something that not only is the work you did in the classroom, but work you continue to do now. So we're going to get into all of those good pieces today. So I so appreciate that you are here with us for our daily drop-in. Our audience right now is eating it up. There's been a lot of comments so far. We so appreciate every time all of you are able to join us live, that you're popping into the comments, sharing those green hearts, those excitement moments, those aha moments. That's exactly what we love to see here on the Daily Drop-In Morning Show. We are going to transition here to a little bit of good news. So we're going to pause our educational discussion just a little to dive into some wonderful things going on in the world, in addition to what we've already discussed. We'll be right back here to celebrate. So make sure you stick with us. All right, so as we get into our good news for the day, here's how we usually operate this, by the way, Claude. We celebrate ridiculous holidays that are going on in the world, because any moment we can to celebrate is a good one, right? It seems like you would carry that mentality. And then we also have typically a good news story. And the mindset of sharing good news every day is just to kind of give us either a little hop, skip in our own step, because we're enjoying the wonderful things happening in the world. But also, it could be a really good discussion point. We could bring these ideas to our colleagues as we're walking down the hall, or it could be a discussion point with our students. It sounds like even with the activities that you used to do on Monday mornings, it was a really intentional moment where you brought up something to discuss with your student body, you could choose to bring good news to your students in a very similar way to foster that discussion, those life lessons. So we're gonna get into all that. Please tell me, do you consider yourself like an outdoorsy person?
So outdoorsy person.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but I feel like there's some holidays that might resonate with what you enjoy.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just, we've celebrated a whole gamut here on Daily Drop-In. We've had Book Lovers Day, we've had National S'mores Day, we had Fajita Day. I mean, those are great. Even yesterday was College Colors Day, right? How ridiculous is that? Today, though, I have two that I'm going to really like. I think the one, I'm not sure how you feel about trail mix, but it is National Trail Mix Day. I don't know
Oh,
if
well, that's in the backpack. Like I love to hike and trail mix, even on like trips. I'm like, let's take bags of that because if you're starving and you're hangry and you don't know where anything is because you're in a new place, trail mix, that'll fix it.
tell me, do you have can you list like the 5 essentials of trail mix? Like what do you think? What do you think it needs to be in there?
There needs to be like the salt sweet component.
Okay.
Like has to be, right? And so I generally make my own. Always include some kind of seeds because they pack so much protein and power. Like nuts, great, but like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, some kind of seeds, they are the little powerhouse. If you think about like that's the start of what becomes a giant plant. Wow, science nerd right there. Um, so seeds, then usually, dried fruit, dried apricots. I prefer golden raisins. So for those of you who haven't tried them, ditch the dark ones. You'll never eat them again after you
You're
eat the
saying
gold.
they taste different, golden versus the dark
Oh,
red?
different. Absolutely different.
Okay, I got to look that up.
Yeah, you got it. Buy a box. I'm telling you. Once I started like baking them, putting them in cookies, people are like, these are so good. What is in these? And I just am like, I don't know. It's just the way I make them. But like, no, really, it's just use the golden raisins instead of the dark. Um, and yeah, like my favorite nuts are probably like almonds, and walnuts. That's what I
Wonderful.
put in
That's
them.
a whole concoction people can craft up today during National Trail Mix Day. I love that. The other holiday,
And just so you know, the new shortage, according to, the Daily Drop-In, is going to be there's not going to be any golden raisins on the shelves, people. So
I hope
when you're grabbing your toilet paper, just grab a box of golden
you
raisins.
might as well grab it now. You know that you will need it for not only this holiday, but any trail mix festivity that you might have in the future. So you might as well grab it now. They don't really, do they have, I mean, they have a long shelf life. They don't go bad for a while. So you got some
They
time.
don't go bad. I open the whole thing, stick them in the fridge, and
It's perfect.
use them as I go.
It's perfect. I love it. The other holiday that kind of goes with this, I thought it was weird that these are on the same day, but it's National Eat Outside Day. I don't know that that's a thing, but everybody should go eat outside. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I have to say, I love that's like my one thing on vacation is like if I can, and even I mean, I know now it became very popular to eat outside, but even before then, I was like, I love to eat outside, breakfast, lunch, dinner, doesn't matter, because it makes me feel like I'm on vacation. Right? Because it's not like how many times do you have a patio or you have a deck or whatever, but it's so much easier to just eat right here in the kitchen rather than haul everything out, haul everything back. But I assure you that if you sit outside and listen to birds or outdoor sounds or whatever environment you live in, there's just something about eating outside. You're unplugged from, the TV is, you don't have that happening, and it just changes the whole vibe. And every time it can be hot, it can be whatever. If I have the opportunity and they have outside seating or inside seating, I'm like, outside, please. Like, so much better. It tastes
And
better too. It tastes
and
better.
everything tastes better when you're eating outside on a gorgeous day or a not so gorgeous day. It's still worth it. Go eat outside today. I don't know that I asked you, where are you located?
I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah,
No
but I'm
kidding.
in that like, and everybody thinks like Turnpike and Parkway and City and like all of that. And if you took New Jersey and went to the very like top point, I'm trying to do it like YMCA here, but the corner that like I'm right near Pennsylvania and I'm right near New York, I'm like up in that little tiny corner. So like this morning, the deer were eating in my backyard. We have a family of bear that regularly transits the yard and goes into the neighbor's yard. Wild turkeys, fox, uh, all kinds of birds, hawks and eagles we see circling around. And it's very rural, and I love it.
See, I just knew that this would be a perfect day to have you on the Daily Drop-In because we're celebrating all this good stuff, encouraging people to get outside, get some fresh air. We do not get enough fresh air. Most of us do not choose to get enough fresh air. Please choose to do that today. Good morning to all of you popping in. We love to see you here on the Daily Drop-In and commenting. So thank you for those of you that are doing that. I thought, Claude, we'd look at a good news story that to me I thought was just really neat, but it also has to do with knowing another language. Do you speak any other languages?
My first language was French, so I learned English when my family came to the United States. I actually learned it in school because at home all we spoke was French. And I spent a month in Russia, and I taught myself some Russian so that I could basically I also was like the pantomime queen, because if I couldn't say it in Russian, I could just, get everybody to understand what I meant. Yeah, I know. Like, is this milk? Like, like it was just kind of one of those things. So, like a tiny bit of Russian. Like if somebody's speaking it, I can get the gist. And
Yeah,
I know the catchphrases, like I understand a
absolutely.
little Russian, but not very well. I can say that like I'm fluent. But
Beautiful.
and honestly, everywhere I travel, the first word that I learn is thank you
Mm,
and please. Like
I
I
love
will
it.
leave anywhere knowing those words. So I know that in several languages. Um,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, there's so many languages I'd love to learn. If you're listening now and you're with us here in the comments live as we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, I'd love to have you share what languages you speak. If you speak English or French or Spanish or anything in between, we'd love to have you share what, even if you know a few words, we'll consider that. Feel free to include it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. This actually is a language that I find so beautiful, but I know very, very little about, and I would love to learn more. I think languages are wonderful, but I have very little skill in remembering languages. I really, really struggle with that for whatever reason. This is Braille, which is like a fascinating language to me. The headline for the good news story this morning says, restaurant makes special chocolate chip pancakes for blind customers to share a birthday message in Braille. And it says, in the article is just so wonderful, going into this wonderful restaurant doing beautiful things, but it says there are thousands of ways to say happy birthday, but maybe the sweetest of all is in a pancake where you spell happy birthday in Braille in chocolate chips. Creating this special treat is something that they feel is so important for their blind community, to wish them the best of wishes in their language. It says what gave the message an even greater meaning was that there was no advanced planning involved. When the restaurant crew learned that a member of their community was celebrating a birthday and that they were blind, they put it together already very quickly. The comment says, my mind was blank for a second. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we can say happy birthday in Braille and they can read it themselves. So this is just a gorgeous story of people going, not necessarily something above and beyond. I know we can consider it above and beyond, but truly looking at their community and saying, how can I make an impact? How can I make someone's day? And what a wonderful little opportunity that a chef was able to do this and now continues to do it for their blind community in a yummy pancake. I love chocolate chip pancakes.
Yeah, who doesn't? So I mean, that's like seals the deal that I was meant to be on this daily drop in today. 14 years I worked at the New Jersey Camp for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and I've watched many, many people read Braille, which was always amazing to me. And they had like little like manual braillers, right? Which is just 6 keys, but to learn the whole alphabet and the contractions. I mean, I tried for a time, but I was sight reading the Braille. So in the end, I was kind of like, I'm going to let the librarian who has an expertise in this do this task. But yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. And just to watch them, uh, um,
Yeah, there's so many things that I know that we can bring into our classrooms that aren't necessarily the content related standards that we are required by law to teach as educators. And I think Braille is something that really could be a wonderful learning experience. There's so many different students that struggle with not only reading but needing to find the joy in learning as they're learning something that's challenging. Braille is a beautiful opportunity to introduce your students to something that uses their whole body for the experience. It's challenging. It has an alphabet. They have some familiarity, some context to connect to. It could be a really, really wonderful activity for any educator, regardless of the level you teach, whether it's kindergarten all the way up to, a high school English class, to bring, these beautiful learning opportunities in. And I love that it allows others to have different access to the wonderful people that are in our world. So such a fun opportunity here, such a great news story, and that would be wonderful to bring to your students or other colleagues today. So that's why we're here, for that good news story. As we get into our discussion a little bit here, we're going to shift our mindset slightly to discuss environment. We've been able to discuss environment in a multitude of ways so far in this morning's daily drop-in. We kind of started with your background in education, the wonderful things you continue to focus on, and those safe spaces that you created for students that I'd love to dive into more. We brought in a little bit of our discussion, our good news story about creating an inclusive environment, right? Allowing those celebrations to exist for all of the people that are in our community. And obviously, we're also here for the daily drop-in to take all of your questions. Anybody that needs a brainstorm partner, that's why we're here. The daily drop-in was originally created for the Teach Better team and other incredible educators to simply be accessible. So if you are thinking through something right now that you want to ask or you want to learn more about, as we dove into so many different topics this morning, we'll be right here to do that in our brainstorm bank. All right, you guys already know how a brainstorm bank works. You can head to teachbetter.com/brainstormbank or teachbetter.com/daily drop-in to add your questions, things that you're struggling with, curious about. Claude, we focused a lot today so far on the classroom that you not only fostered for 25 years in education, but also have written a book and continue to work with students to find those successful moments. I'd love to go back to that conversation, if you don't mind, and tell me a little bit about these wonderful Mondays. What was the environment? What was the culture that you were striving to create on those special Monday morning meetings?
So the environment on Mondays really came to, I want to say, like, blow my mind too, because you all, and all of you out there who teach teenagers, right? Little kids are like, they're happy all the time. I feel like they're running in and hugging the teacher on Monday morning. But eighth graders, first period on a Monday, not so much. And so starting out my day doing this and starting out each class period doing this changed the environment in my room, but it was so long lasting. I mean, it lasted all week. It really did. And at first I thought to myself, well, I'm going to try this little experiment, do these little mindset lessons, really build some life habits here, and I'm going to see where this takes me. But I also recognize I have this content that I'm getting paid to get through, and the expectation is that I'm going to be at, point Z at the end of the year. And I was concerned about that a little. But what happened was they came in. It was no distractions, everything off your desk. All you need is something to write with and a blank piece of paper. And I would do these little talks, give them these little questions. The little wheels are turning. They are writing. Kids who would not do my science homework were like fully engaged. And I realized, they're going to be okay. Like they might not have a great work ethic for my content, but they are building their self-awareness right now. And that's so much more important than if they know Newton's laws, because honestly, gravity is still going to affect them whether they memorize the laws or not. So, you know, it just transformed the room. And what happened in that 10 or 15 minutes was that everything I did after that was so much more effective. They were more focused. There was a level of calm. Their energy was just like vibrating in this place where they could be productive and maintain their focus. And I actually got more done at the end of the week by investing 15 minutes on a Monday than I would have if I hadn't started out that way. And the other amazing thing that happened was, I'd give these little talks, and then I could draw on it later to the point where like we sort of had our own language. And so, quick example is like one of the lessons that I did, I drew like 4 squares, and I put, the 4 categories of like things that they feel good and they are good for you, right? And we generated things like, hanging out with your friends, listening to music, playing sports. Like they told me all these things that feel bad but are good for you. And it was like doing your chores, helping your parents, doing your homework, those kinds of things. Like you don't enjoy them, but it makes you grow. Then it feels good. No, it feels bad. No, hold on. Early morning moment here. Feels good, bad for you. That was it. So they had feels good, good for you, feels good, bad for you. And that was like trash talking people, like you feel so cool, making fun of somebody, experimenting with substances you shouldn't be experimenting with, right? And then there was the like feels bad, bad for you. And like when I said to them, like, what feels bad and is bad for you? Kids openly admitted, like when I cheat on my assignments, when I lie to my parents, like they were coming up with these things. And so I'd have these instances where, one kid was sort of giving another kid a hard time, and I could say, feels good, bad for you. And that was it. That was like the level of discipline. Like the kids knew in that moment, oh, I got to check myself. That's not cool. And they fixed it. I didn't have to step in. I didn't like I could count on one hand maybe how many times I had to discipline anybody once we had this shared language. Once they knew, look, I care about your life. I don't just care about your science grade and the 2 or 3 digit number that you're going to get on an assignment. Like that is important because I want you to be trying and working to your potential, but it's not the most important thing, right? And so it just changed the whole atmosphere. When they came in, whatever happened prior to them coming in, they'd walk into my room and I'd see their shoulders drop. I'd see them like just take an exhale, like, yeah, and they knew it was good because I wasn't somebody who was going to like raise my voice at them. There wasn't a lot of pressure. I was like, I'm already teaching physics. Like, I need to add pressure to this? No, I don't. Like, so I don't know. It just changed. It changed a lot of things, and it changed it for me too. I looked more, I really did look forward to going to work on Monday. And I know a lot of teachers, especially now going back to school, after a lot of them have been remote or hybrid or all the terms that they created to make up the insanity that was last year. I know that there's some little anxiety. So I just am like, yeah, just, if you provide a safe, calm environment, they will respond and they need it. they need it because they haven't had it with any consistency, I feel.
Well, and I love that focus of a safe, calm environment because we all can be successful in a safe, calm environment. And I love the structure that you're putting in to having those discussions on how this could be valuable for them. I'd love to just, if you don't mind, get into some of the weeds of that activity because there was a lot of comments as we're discussing this live of people saying, "Ooh, I love that idea. I love this activity." If an educator wants to bring that activity to their students today, or maybe they're going to wait till next Monday to stick to your theme of bringing this discussion to Mondays. If I was a teacher and I was saying, okay, I'm bought in, I actually really love that idea, I want to take it from this live video and I want to implement it right away, what are kind of like the must-haves of that activity? Do I want to get a sheet of paper and break it into 4 sections? Do I want to kind of facilitate it as a discussion? What is the inner workings of making that activity a success? And then what should they do with maybe whatever product comes of that? Where does it belong in your recommendation from your experience?
Sure. So the first time I did it, actually, the first time I did this is sort of how I think about food, right? Like it tastes good and it's good for you. So like strawberries, apples, and then it tastes bad, but it's good for you. So like some kids will be like asparagus and Brussels sprouts. Then it tastes good, but it's bad for you.
Sure.
So like Doritos, like most sodas, like that.
Rae had Doritos in the morning, guys. I'm so sorry.
I know. Who knew? It's not one of the building blocks of strong bodies.
No.
And then the last one was like taste bad, bad for you, like uncooked, overcooked, undercooked, spoiled. Like nobody wants that category of food. So, I kind of entered it from like, okay, let's talk about food, right? And then I just changed it to like instead of tastes good, like feels good, good for you. And so now all of a sudden they had this connection. This is actually one of the chapters in my book. And I started talking about certain things, but then I would often give them these big like whiteboards that I got at the local like box hardware store, and I had them cut into like 2 foot by 4 foot, and I just laid them out on 4 tables. I gave them dry erase markers, and I put the titles on each one. And I had them go around. I was like, don't put your name. This is anonymous. Like, I don't want to know who wrote it. And they could fill out all the ones. And they were generating these responses, right? Like they're telling me, yeah, I really don't like helping my parents rake the leaves. But I realized that like I'm perfectly capable and that I should be doing that rather than sitting and playing my video games or whatever. So they saw it, like as much as they might complain in the moment, they saw the value of it as well. It was just bringing that awareness. But then like when something good would happen, they'd get a good grade and I'd be like, feels good, good for you. Like I could just literally call on that. And it was like me saying, I'm celebrating with you.
Sure.
Like
I love that.
We should celebrate all the wins. So
everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and that's such an easy activity that truly, just thinking of, my background, depending on what I was teaching that day, the grade level I was teaching, I get to work with teachers kind of full range of all different grade levels and subject areas. You could do this and have it be a quick, 10-minute discussion. You could do this and actually make an entire day out of it. I mean, this could be something that you incorporate, maybe not in your content space. You could bring this into an advisory lesson or in an after school program. I mean, these are all things that kind of fit in a lot of different areas because it's going back to that root that we discussed early on, that you're teaching the whole child. And I love this environment of not only brainstorming and collaborating through this activity, but creating that space of celebration so that you can continuously foster that environment regardless of the day with those students. It's very powerful.
It was, and really what I mean, as a teacher, there are very few things that have that much impact in your classroom that don't require either a whole lot of work on your part or record keeping of some kind or grading of some kind. And like it required none of it. And they knew that. And you ask a question and And like, I'll pose one to your listening audience, right? Another one of my favorite chapters in the book. It was like, just take a piece of paper and make a list of everything you love. And I just gave them time. Like they just had, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. You'll know because once they have to really think hard, and now you're in the like category, never mind. And if it didn't come right to mind, or they just stop writing, put down their pencil. And so I'd say, okay, I want you to count down the list. How many things did you write before you wrote yourself? Oh, ooh. A lot of kids were like, and so then we start talking about like, well, if you love yourself, I'm not talking about being conceited, right? I'm talking about like, no, I want to have a good life, and I want to be healthy, and I want to do the things that I love to do, and I want to be productive, and I want to be happy, right? That's loving yourself, making choices that are going to take you in that direction. And so then you can open the door and you can say like, is vaping doing that for you? Because my 8th graders were meeting up in the bathroom to vape. Like that's where it was at the end. It was like really, upsetting to me. Often there'd be a group text, a bunch of, kids would meet in the bathroom, they'd come back, and you knew that was going on. And I'd be like, is that going to do it for you? Like send you on a 40-year addiction that ends in like terrible health and illness? But it was like, that's the segue. How much do you love yourself? If you love yourself, are you going to let other people, use you and be untrue friends? No, like you'd rather just stick with your solid friends and not worry about how many likes you have or how popular you are. And, so it just opened the door for so many really deep discussions that you think they're not, I don't want to say they're not ready for, but you don't think they think that deeply, because honestly, sometimes they make decisions that make you question like, what were you thinking? But they have these thoughts if they are given a minute to just think about it. Because school is like the bell rings, and you go here, okay, you were thinking about math, and now I want you to think about English, and now I want you to think about science. And there's this like 2-minute segue in between mind space, and it's overwhelming. It's a lot.
Well, and something I've really appreciated about this dialogue specifically, which, we do our best to bring this to Daily Drop-In as much as possible, but it's always challenging depending on the people that we have on the show to really get into the inner workings of this. But you've done it beautifully of getting those really specific tactical takeaways. That is something that as a Teach Better team, we love. We can talk philosophy and educational, like best practice all we want, but something that I truly value, and I love that our team feels so passionately about this, is getting our network members, our family members, those not just concepts that they could go explore further, but truly, how do you get there? What's the activity? What's the question that you need to ask to actually make those shifts? And it's not easy to necessarily always find activities that work for K-12 educators, because there's such a range. There's so many things, factors that we need to consider. And what I really appreciate is that both activities in very simplistic forms that you've shared work with so many different styles of classrooms, styles of teachers. And if this is what your book is full of, then holy cow, we all need to have this book, not only here on the Teach Better family, but worldwide for educators. Because if we can create these pathways, these hallways, these avenues to getting to those important conversations with students, now we can make that impact that you're referring to. So I not only understand where your passion is coming from, but holy cow, does it seem like you've done a lot of work to ensure every educator, regardless of their background or their passions, can also get there with students, which is truly unique and invaluable in this profession. I really appreciate all these ideas. I hope that people really choose to enact these powerful conversations in their classrooms as soon as today, if not tomorrow.
And I will tell you, just to talk about the book a little bit, I curated this into 30 chapters, and people were like, why 30? And I said, well, what's a school year? Like 36 weeks? So you got a couple weeks to start. Then you've got standardized testing week out the window. Then the last couple weeks are chaos, like whatever. And so it was like this could literally take you through the whole year. You just do one lesson, but they build, you start real simple, about excellent. What is it? Like, let's define it. What is it? Right. And then how your attitude plays into that, how you can control how much effort you put into things. And it just builds. And at the end, it's, like the keys, literally the keys to success and like habits going forward. But anybody who knows me, I'm a very practical person. I don't want to sit and talk to you about like, oh, the ivory tower philosophies of something. Like I need, like, I guess maybe it's being the hands-on science person that I was, but it's like, I need something practical that I can apply. And I also get that teachers don't have a lot of time, which was why right after I left, I had that momentum and I was like, all right, I'm going to get this published. And I'm going to, do the outreach, which is thankfully why you guys included me here on the Daily Drop-In. But it's I don't want to say canned, because it's not canned, because you're going to bring your personality to it, and you're going to bring your life experiences, and you're going to share your stories and deliver it in that manner. But it literally lays out 30 easy, accessible topics for every student, because the questions are so open-ended that, what you answer is going to be vastly different from what I answer, but it's still going to build that self-awareness piece. And that's what I knew as an educator. That's what I knew I wanted to bring. And I actually have the student version, which is the 30 chapters. And now on and by the way, this is on Amazon, because I believe in the path of least resistance. It's, you guys work hard enough. You don't need to make it harder. But there's also a teacher's edition. So with each chapter, it's followed up with a group activity that you can do with your whole class that never causes a student to have to divulge any of their personal information. So, like, for example, we're talking about excellence. Draw a line down your board, and on one side write always, and on the other side write never. And then I want you to think of somebody who's excellent. It could be your mom, your neighbor, your friend, a celebrity. It could be anybody.
Sure.
What's something? Give them sticky notes or tape and a little piece of paper. What's something that this excellent person, what do they always do? Tape it on the board. What do they never do? Tape it on the board. And now you're having a conversation about traits of excellence, and nobody has had to share any personal information. This is what I think excellence is. Boom, right? There's very low, there's high engagement, but then there's low risk. Because now I'm going to read everybody's. Oh, okay. So a person of excellence never complains about their problems. They seek solutions. And, that kind of stuff is, each chapter has an activity that follows it in the teacher's edition.
Claude Larson, I'm so appreciative that you chose to come on Daily Drop-In. You've shared so much today, not only related to environment, but truly, what are the things you can go do tomorrow to create the successful environment that you aim to as an educator? I'd love to have you, for our last few moments here together, share how people can stay connected to you. And then also, I know that you shared that the book is on Amazon. I'd love to have you share the title again, so that they can maybe go Google your name or go look up the title specifically in Amazon, because I know that our network is all about finding resources that really support us as educators, not just holistically, but truly in those strategies, those tactical takeaways. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. It's The Power of Choice, A Teen's Guide to Finding Personal Success. And again, there's the student edition if you just want them to do independent activities. There's the teacher's edition if you want to bring whole class together, especially if you have like an advisory period or a homeroom period. I know sometimes they want you to I love it. They want you to bring in activities, but they don't give you any budget or like additional planning time. That's like quite the lament. But so, and you can find that on Amazon. You can find me. I have a website, Claude, that's CLAUDE, middle initial, Larson, LARSON, LLC.com. So I am now a corporation of
There
one.
you go.
Yeah, I know. Who knew? It's like they'll let anybody do this. And so yeah, and you can reach out to me there. There's a contact form. If you have a PTA that does stuff like buys in bulk, I can I think Jeff Bezos can do without my royalties, and I can get it for you at like print cost. So if you want to order author copies, I can do that for bulk mailings. People can reach out if they have a youth organization that they work with, if they, anything, scouts. Like I said, I use it for youth corps, any of these guidance groups. If you have guidance counselors on the podcast, sometimes they take small groups out that are struggling with specific needs. And it's just a good way to build self-awareness, but they can reach out to me, send me through the contact form, through the website. And I'm on Instagram at The Power of Choice for Success. They can follow me there. I think
Well, you guys know we're all connected here. So if you aren't finding the right avenue to connect today, then please feel free to reach out to the Teach Better team. We will get you connected somehow. We always love to help our educators get connected to other all-stars in the field that are doing wonderful things to support students. So if you're struggling at all to get connected, find the resources that you're looking for, please let us know. Thank you again so much for joining us. You really have made the hour go by so stinking quick. I can't believe we're out of time. For all of our incredible Daily Drop-In family, we hope you have nothing but the most wonderful Tuesday ever. It's the last day of August 31st. So please enjoy your last few sips of coffee as you get started on the incredible day ahead of you. As always, we are live here every single morning, Monday through Friday, diving into a number of different things, including your questions. So please let us know if you need anything. Claude, thank you again so much for joining us. We're going to hang out right here, but for everybody else, we love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of the Teach Better family, and we will see you again bright and early tomorrow morning.
Thanks.
For the Daily Drop-In.
Thanks for having me. And I do send out my wishes that all of you have a really good start to school. I know some schools are already in session. Those of you who are, kicking off, September 1, I wish you a solid back to school, feeling grounded, and hopefully less uncertainty than you've experienced. Because if you were resilient enough to weather that, you have the power to have a great year.
Oh, love it. Cheers, guys. Good morning. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.